and welcome to Weird Dough, the show where we're going to make every recipe in Kim Joy from the Great British Bake Off's cookbook.
Weird Dough, Episode 2.
So today, we are going to start with one of her cookie recipes. And the very first cookie she has listed here is called a Semolina Shortbread. I've never made a Semolina Shortbread before. The Semolina Shortbread recipe is kind of funny because it doesn't have anything ordinary that you would usually use to make a cookie. Like there's not baking powder or baking soda or salt or vanilla. It's just 4 ingredients: salted butter, granulated sugar, regular flour, and then semolina flour, which is I guess what makes it special. I've only ever had semolina bread, but funny enough, it's like my family's favorite kind of bread. So before we begin, I know it can be a little intimidating sometimes to start a new recipe that you've never done before because often it comes with a price tag. You have to buy all of these additional things that you don't have at your house, like semolina flour. So to give you like a little bit of a heads up on what price tag you're getting into for making this Semolina Shortbread recipe, I want to let you know about the things that I purchased just specifically for this recipe. So that doesn't count things like eggs or flour or sugar, ordinary household ingredients that you probably have lying around. The first thing that I got was Bob's Red Mill Semolina flour. I just got this at my local grocery store. This semolina flour costs $3.79, which isn't that bad. I got parchment paper, which Kim Joy is always using in her recipes. So I figured I should make the investment and get the parchment paper so I could be a little more of a pro like her. But this parchment paper at Michael's was $5.99. I also got this Wilton glitter paint silver stuff. So cool. I can't remember. This costs, I think, look at all the things I bought. Too many. Pearl dust. Here it is. The pearl dust, this was $4.79, but I think this is kind of a good investment because this is a lot. These two are both marked for $2 each, and they were sold to me for $1 each. And I also got some extra piping bags, disposable piping bags. Let's consult the receipt. These were $4.49, and it comes in a pack of 12. So it's quite a few. Again, this is something that you'll be able to use again. I also got this larger snowflake that I found at a store called New York Cake. If you live here or if you visit, Poppy. If you live in New York and you're into baking, you should definitely go there. It's like a wonderland of supplies. And so that's the only things extra that I bought for this particular recipe. So let's get started. So the first thing that Kim Joy says that we should do is line a baking sheet with baking paper. Lucky for us, we've got it. Here's our sheets, and here's our baking paper. Set it aside. Line the other one. Whoop. That's 2. Set it aside. The next step, what she says we should do is beat the butter and sugar until smooth and fluffy. So we have our butter here. Not quite as much as a buttercream recipe, but a good amount. And we have our sugar, which is actually not that much sugar. We're gonna just beat it until it's light and fluffy. All right, so it's all in the beaters. So we're gonna get a spatula and scrape it out. That's a pro tip. Oh my God, the beater's coming out. We're just gonna take them out. Look at all that butter. Butter, baby. So much butter. It's looking pretty good. It's not quite as fluffy as we want it to be. Pro tip, make sure your mixer is off because your hair could get caught in it and that would be a freaking disaster. Here we go. The next step, whoop, almost lost our rage. Add the flour and semolina and mix until just combined. Okay, so we have our semolina flour, and we have our regular all-purpose flour. We're gonna mix it until just combined. So something about cookie dough versus cake batter is it gets really crumbly when you use a hand mixer like that. At about this stage in the game, after you've like whipped the butter and the sugar together, you kind of want to use a wooden spoon and just kind of mix it together a little and see if we can get it to combine. There's not a lot of wet ingredients in this dough, just butter. Now we've done it with the wooden spoon and it came to like about this. Another thing I like to do with cookie dough is just use your hands at the end, because then you can squeeze it and it'll all just get together instead of like super separated. Like this is not ideal. That's a pro tip. And we're gonna just use our hands and see if we can get it to just get all together. Ooh, I can feel it. See, with your hands, how much better it is? Oh my goodness, this is a sticky dough, sticky dough, sticky dough. Okay, here is our sticky dough. Kim Joy says it should be soft, sticky, yet easy to handle. I think it's pretty easy to handle. She says if you want, you can chill it for like 15 minutes to, you know, get it a little easier to handle. So I think that we'll do that. Whoop, whoop, 15 minutes. So it's been about 15 minutes. We have our dough here, slightly chilled in our cling wrap. We're gonna use this rolling mat. It's for like rolling out fondant. I've never used it before in my life. But a little pro tip is you're supposed to put shortening underneath it so that it doesn't slide around. So I guess we'll put it on our hands. I guess we'll just put it in the corners and we'll put it down. And hopefully it doesn't slide around. So before you roll out the dough, you want to put down some flour so that it doesn't stick to the surface. It's better to just kind of use a lot. It can't really hurt the dough, so you might as well use as much as you want. Let's open our dough out of the cling film. I don't know why I keep saying cling film like I'm from like some old 50s show. Maybe because I just watched Miss Maisel. And you're gonna take your dough and you're gonna just kind of like break off part. You don't wanna do the whole thing at once. That's a pro tip. Roll it into a little ball, put it on your floured surface and flatten it. Flip it over, brush the flour, flatten it. You always kind of want to brush the flour so this way it is always underneath it. Let's get the rolling pin. So what you do now is roll it out. So Kim Joy doesn't really say how thick it should be, but one thing she does say is that this is a very delicate dough due to the fat to flour ratio. It's a little on the delicate side. So for beginners, you should use simple shapes. Here's hoping our snowflake is a simple enough shape. So our ornament is a pretty basic shape, but if you had something a little more intricate, a pro tip would be to dip your cookie cutter into the flour so that the cookie cutter doesn't stick to the dough. It's looking pretty good. Here we go. Let's go for it. We have an ornament. Let's do a snowflake. Let's do one of each. Tiny snowflake, big snowflake. Oh, I almost cut it over the ornament. And I think we can fit another little snowflake. We can. So now what I like to do is peel the dough off the sides and then scoop the cookies onto the tray. Ooh, this dough is very delicate. She was not fibbing, our friend Kim Joy. So we're gonna use a spatula to get them from our rolling mat to the cookie tray. The good thing to do when you're doing the delicate, more intricate ones is to like do this, shimmy it, instead of just like jamming it on there like it's a pizza or something. Here comes the big snowflake, which honestly I think is gonna be the hardest one. Alright, we got it! Ta-da! We rolled this dough out to be about like this thick. So let's see how the cookies come out. I don't know because there's nothing to make it rise up. So I don't know if it's gonna stay this flat. Maybe it'll stay this flat and it'll be crunchy for those that like that. It's about, I'm really bad at measurement, 1/4 of an inch. So all the scraps from the cookies you just rolled out and made, you can do again. You can just ball it up, put it back on the mat, roll it out, make another set of cookies. Here's our first tray. See if I can show you. Whoop! Now the next thing you do is you put it in the fridge for 15 minutes. It's been 15 minutes, we have our cookies, and we're gonna put them in the oven. Fingers crossed that baking paper doesn't catch on fire because let's hope for no fires. 10 minutes. Here they are. Baking paper did not catch on fire. Our cookies have cooled, and we're just gonna transfer them to these wire racks. They look great. They held their shape. They're nice and brown on the edge. They look awesome. Kim Joy uses this Royal Icing recipe to make these gorgeous cookies on the side. In the recipe, it's just egg whites and confectioner sugar. We're gonna separate our eggs and make some icing. Here's how you separate an egg. You just crack it on the side, and then you use the tiny part to hold the big part. Well, up! Whoa. Almost, oh my gosh, okay. We didn't get any yolk in there. Whew. We're gonna save the egg yolks for Poppy, my dog. She has been very good during this entire session. First, confectioner sugar. 2 2/3 tablespoon. That is very precise. The other thing is I don't have a tablespoon measuring spoon. So you know, 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. And I've been doing that for probably years. Oh, it's really hard to measure an egg white. So maybe that's 1. This is really not working. All right, let's try it again. It's not even getting in the spoon. It's just sticking to the edge. We're just gonna pour like a little bit of the egg white in there. I'm nervous, but I don't know what else to do. So that was about half. So that's about 1.5 eggs worth of egg white. All right, here we go. So this is what ours looks like. Kim Joy says the 15-second icing means that when you stir it in 15 seconds, it will return to its original consistency. Let's give it a stir. Okay, it's already back. So I guess that means we need more sugar. We added a scoop more of sugar. Let's see what it looks like after this. Okay, it's looking a little thicker. Let's do the test. Stir. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 9, 10. Okay, that's a 10-second icing. Let's put a little more sugar. We're gonna put just like this much more sugar in this time. Here we go. I'd also like to point out the handprints on my pants. Let's give it the stir test. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 19 Mississippi, 20 Mississippi. This is a 20-second icing. I think we're just gonna go with it. Now we have our 20-second icing, and we're gonna separate it into these 3 jars. So that one will be pink, blue. I think we'll just leave the white in the bowl. Kim Joy does say she always likes to leave some extra white royal icing on the side in case she wants to make a different color along her journey. She comes up with a cool idea halfway through. Remember when I said the dog was good and she was getting the eggs? That might not be true. Good girl. Special egg dinner. So we have these cool neon colors, and we're gonna use this blue because I feel like it's kind of icy. And we'll use this one, it's called raspberry. 3 drops to start. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that might have been 4. Oh, well this is not pink. This is purple. Raspberries aren't purple, are they? Hopefully this blue is blue. Let's see. 3 drops was too much, so I went with 2. Not quite so icicle blue as intended. Maybe we should add some more white and then make another white. We're gonna do that. I don't want it to be so dark. That didn't really help. Well, bright colors it is. Kim Joy recommends you get disposable bags that are seamless, but I couldn't find any seamless piping bags. Okay, so here we go with the blue. I don't want to make too much of a mess. Whoop, it's coming out on the other edges. Oh my god, it's getting messy anyway. That's our method. Spoon and scrape. Let's go into the pour. Here we go. Come on, baby. I will say that the consistency of this royal icing is a lot like glue. Scoop and scrape. And now let's make our white. Aha, hard to find because they're almost invisible. We're just gonna do a scoop and scrape because it's in this giant bowl. Elmer's glue to the T. We have all of our cookies out of the oven, but I would just like to point out that some of them came out really, really dark, which to me is really not ideal. I just want to show this of the baking paper because this is a little charred. I don't want my fire alarm going off or there to be a fire in my oven. That would be a nightmare. So maybe we don't use baking paper from here on out. I don't know. We're gonna take 1 of each of our 3 cookies and we're gonna ice them. and see how it goes. According to Kim Joy, for the flooding, you want to have a little bit of a thicker cut at the bottom. We're gonna do a tiny snip. It's like, I don't know. I'm really bad at measurements. Centimeter. And we're gonna make a blue snowflake. And let's go around the edge of the big snowflake. Now we're gonna flood it. To flood it means you basically fill the whole center with the icing. So we're taking our cookie that we just flooded, and as recommended by Kim Joy, you take a toothpick and you kind of wiggle it around and get all the air bubbles out and make it nice and smooth like you see at a bake shop. This is gonna be our piping bag. So instead of the thicker tip, like the flooding, we're gonna make a tiny, tiny tip. Ooh, hopefully that's good. And you see what she's talking about with the seamed bag. It really makes it come out flat instead of round. I think if you just do a random zigzag and then get your toothpick quick enough, it's enough frosting. You can push it around so it fills the whole thing. Yeah, it seems to be working. I think our 20-second frosting is a little bit too thick. And now for the third, instead of flooding, let's just try to pipe a nice pattern. One of the things they say is you're not supposed to touch the cookie. You're supposed to start squirting and then pick it up and then put it back down. Start squirting, pick it up, and put it back down. That actually came out exceptionally pretty. So we're gonna take our silver glittery Wilton dust. This is my first time doing something like this. Kim Joy doesn't give too many tips, but one tip she does give is to use vodka instead of water because it dries quicker. So you take a paintbrush, dip it in the vodka, dip it in here. Ooh, it looks very pretty. And then we're just gonna paint it on to the ornament top. Oh yeah, this silver is cool. It's clumping a little more than I'd like. Maybe we need a little more vodka. Oh yeah, there we go. You gotta get your brush really wet. Kim Joy says that while she does the piping and decorating of her cookies, she usually watches TV and sits on the couch. We are gonna do that. Here are our decorated Semolina Shortbread Cookies from Kim Joy's cookbook, Baking with Kim Joy. They came out super winter wonderlandy. A few things that I learned while doing this. Number one, baking paper can be a little dangerous. It didn't catch on fire, but it sure was burnt. Number two, I think that your cookies need to be just a little bit thicker than ours were perhaps, because some of them got really brown. Another thing is when it comes to the Royal Icing, a 15-second icing is actually way better than a 20-second. When it comes to the food dye, always start with less. Start with 1 drop, not 3, in whatever you're trying to dye. Our colors are very saturated. When it comes to the icing of the cookies, Kim Joy is spot on. You need to get a seamless, disposable icing bag. Let's give it a try. All right, guys. This is a buttery, delicious shortbread cookie that puts the Girl Scouts to shame. 4 ingredients, perfect cookie. Crunchy, light, buttery, has a snap. Sweetness comes from the icing. Wow. Recommend. Make this recipe, get this cookbook, make it today. So easy, so good.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have thumbs, and feel free to subscribe. If you want to see the behind the scenes footage, follow me on Instagram.